We're going to learn about CSS. What is CSS? And that's the first question in which we would ask ourselves today. What is CSS? CSS is an acronym. It's an acronym that stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Before we do anything complex, um, can one of you tell me what the word cascading style sheet means? Sorry, what the word cascading means. If I say something is cascading, what does it mean? Let us not waste time. Mr. Sari, what does it mean? Okay, Mr. Sari did not answer the question. So we'll give Mr. Sari -5 and
Hello
move.
there. Hello there.
Why is it that whenever it gets to the point where you get a -5, that is the point where you realize that, yes, I have to talk?
Okay,
From
I
now,
don't hear you.
okay, that's fine. From now onwards, before we go on, everybody unmute yourself and let me know that you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Everybody unmute now and let me know that you can hear me at the same time. Hakeem, Andrew, Emmanuel, Opoku, Andy, Peter, all unmute now. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
please.
Very
Yes,
good.
sir.
I
So
think that
now
I am in the car, so
I fine. From now on, the moment I mention your name, by the time I'm done mentioning your name, you must be
okay,
unmuted and speaking. The moment I don't hear
okay,
you
good.
for 5 seconds, I'll just deduct five from you. Are we clear?
Okay, okay. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Let's unmute ourselves again. So, Mr. Andrew,
Yes, sir.
what is does cascading mean? Mr. Andrew, what does cascading mean?
It's like um cascading is literally like okay, the literal sense of cascading is like when water is flowing down,
Okay.
like from like yeah, like the way the water flows down from, like, let's say waterfall down.
Mm-hmm. That is what cascading means.
Or or maybe like when you are speaking, like when you are talking, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe express yourself
Mm-hmm.
on a general, like, let's say maybe when uh, uh, like a series of things follow, like in order, like maybe because of this happened, because of that happened, like, I don't know
Okay.
if you get what I'm saying.
I'm listening to what you are saying. So you are telling me what it means. Mhm.
Yes, yes. So it's like maybe let's say series of something in a sequential order.
A series of something in a sequential order.
Yes.
Mm. Okay. So when I say cascading, as you said, something falling, something going down, something in. By the way, a lot of you have not registered. I hope you know you have not registered, right? Let me just put that in because I'm checking to see your class list. And a lot of there was only one person who has registered. The rest of you, what is going on?
Hello?
Anyway, so cascading styles, cascading typically means falling, falling on top of something. So if things are cascading, they are falling in a systematic order on top of one another. It's a very important word in CSS. Technically, it means I have various style sheets that are falling on top of each other. A very good example of this is when you have like a tracing paper, a paper that you've put on the floor. You're drawing something, you have a book, you put a tracing paper on, you draw on top of the tracing paper. Then you put another tracing paper on top of that tracing paper. You realize you can draw the book through those two tracing papers. But when you look on top of the tracing paper, all you see is the book. and then the colorations that are in the book. So cascading style sheets means that I have multiple style sheets on top of each other, all working together to give me one look. Now, CSS was brought into being for presentation and design of a document. This document is written in HTML or XML. So HTML being a programming language that was built primarily for structure, I have CSS coming in to support that language so that I can have presentation and design. Because if you attach presentation and design to HTML, it makes your site heavy. It makes your site very, very difficult to load, too big. So you realize that someone wants to use your site, he loads the site. It takes a long time to load because your site is not only loading the structure, but the presentation too with HTML. So coders sat down and came up with CSS so that HTML will be left to do its job, which is to give the structure of the work of the application. And then CSS will come in and give you the design, the look, the feel of the web page. Are there any misunderstandings?
No, sir.
So CSS allows developers to separate content from design, making websites more visibly appealing and easier to maintain. And the easier to maintain part comes in from this angle, whereby because all my elements for design are grouped into one location, I can use it for multiple pages, and all those multiple pages can feed off that one design. Hence, if I have a design change I want to make, I don't have to go to all my pages to make HTML structural differences. I can just go to that one page that has my design, make the change of the design there, and all my pages will have the design being implemented over there. For example, let's have an example of what I am saying. So I'm going to create a folder. So here I have a folder. And in this folder in which I'm going to go to my desktop. And in my desktop, I'm going to right-click in my desktop. And I'm going to create a folder here called CSS class, one word. And in here, I'm going to open it up. Please, as I am doing things, it's very important to me that you learn habits from me. You learn some of the habits in which I have. You realize that one habit in which I have is every time I'm naming a file, I always make it one word. There is always no space in it. Please learn that habit. Over here, I'll right-click and click on Open in VS Code. Oh, sorry, open in terminal. And once I open terminal, I'll just type code space dot, and I'll open this folder in VS Code. We've done this already. We know how to do this. On the side here, I'll click the button here, and then I'll add a file with index.html. We know how to do this. We have done this already. Now, once I have created my file in index, I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to just type in HTML semicolon. Oh, sorry. Did I do the right thing here? So let me rename this. Over here, instead of the dot, I used a comma. So now I have my HTML file. In here, I'm going to type HTML semicolon 5, and I'll click on the tab button to implement. And I have just typed in the basic structure of a HTML page. Remember, when we met in class and I told you that this is the basic structure of a HTML page. In the exam, I can tell you what is the basic structure of a HTML page. And I expect you to write the code that you see on the screen. In here, I'm going to write some HTML code inside my head. So I have my HTML code over here. So this is my HTML code. Now, if I run this on my server to look at how my HTML code looks like, I'll realize that my HTML code looks like this. So I have welcome to my site, I have about, I have a page for you to learn more, I have a signature at the bottom, which shows my name and on my rights of the site. So here I have a site in HTML. HTML's job is this, is to give my site structure. Over here, I have, when I right click and I go to view source page, I can see that I have my head file, I have my navigation file, I have my content, and I have my footer. My site is structured in a particular way. The HTML's job is to structure my site in a particular way. Is to provide my site with how it will look, how it will feel, how it will be, where items are supposed to be placed, and the items that are placed there, what kind of item is it? Because here I have home. So home is supposed to be clickable. Hence, you can see I can click on home and it will take me to another place, and it is an A tag. Over here, I'm telling someone about my page. And because it is not the most important piece of text on my page, but it's the second most important piece of text, I've called it H2. Over here, this is my main text, so it is H1. So HTML's job is to provide structure. That is why knowing the HTML tags, the basic tags, H1, nav, div, H2, they are very important to us. But what is the job of CSS? CSS's job is to provide my site with the design, with the look, with the feel. So over here, I'm going to add some in-text CSS. One second. Some in-text CSS. Don't worry, we are not typing it. I'm just showing you what we are about to embark on. That's why I am just putting the code in there and I'm not saying anything about the code. So over here, I'm going to put in some CSS code. And once I put in some CSS code in the CSS tab, I'll realize that my site now looks like this, where I have a footer, I have this, I have a place like this, I have a button. This one is also in the red mark here. I can put in content, and this looks a lot more appealing to the eye than how it looked at first. And it is the job of the CSS to make it look like this. Now, remember the word cascading. So over here, I have a style, and on top of it, I have another style. And all of them are one on top of each other, and they are helping each other to give me my presentation, my look, my feel, how my application is going to look like. Are there any questions at this point?
No, sir.
A very important thing in CSS is the selector. Is the selector. So what is the selector? A selector is a pattern or a rule used to select style HTML elements. Select and style HTML elements. It determines which elements a particular style rule applies to. Now, in your application, in your code, for example, the code in which I just showed you here, I have a lot of HTML elements here. I have the head, I have the H1, I have the nav, I have the A tag, I have the div, I have the H2 tag, I have the P tag, I have another P tag over here, I have an A tag here, I have a footer, I have a P tag here. So if I come to you and tell you that I want the P tag to be red, It's a simple enough request. But which of the p tags? Is it this p tag? Or is it this p tag? Or probably it's the p tag over here. I think there is another p tag on the top. No, there isn't. So what p tag do you want to make red? Which one? So I come to my application here. I click out here. I click in here. The way in which we do selectors is, first of all, I can select the HTML tag itself. So I can select a P tag, I can select an A tag, I can select a H1 tag. I can select any HTML element I want to select. The job of CSS, if you haven't yet noticed it, is that I am targeting each and every single element. So you can see that what I've written here, I'm saying, go and look for the footer. And when you find the footer, make the background white, make the color white, make it align in the center, give the padding this. So it means each thing I'm writing here, it will go and look for this and do that to it. In this case here, I am targeting this HTML tag. So a selector, which is this half of it. So this here is my CSS. This half of it, which tells me what I should go and target, is my selector. So again, the selector could be a HTML tag. The selector could be a class. Now, the word class means a group of elements with the same or of with the or of the or with the same qualities. Let's give an example. If I wanted to target you people, all of you people, I am going to target level 200. The moment I say I'm targeting level 200, yes, I am targeting you. But that doesn't give the best picture. Because there are level 200 students who are at home now. And you are also level 200 students in school now. So the correct target for you would be level 200 top up. Now, when I say level 200 top up students, come, I am calling all of you. All of you are level 200 top up students. All of you will come as a group. So if I want to identify elements as a group, I would use a class. Now, if I want to identify elements as individuals, then I will use an ID. For example, if I was to ask any of you, what is your ID? And you would say 17001155. That is what makes you you. To be honest, in the university environment, your name doesn't matter, because if I call you, I'm looking for Andrew, there may be 100 Andrews. But if I mention your ID, there's only one of you that has that ID. Hence, I can write this in my code multiple times, because a lot of you can have the class name pop up. But only one of you can have your ID. Hence, the ID can be used only once in your code. So if I want to identify a particular element, and note, when I say element, I am talking about a HTML element. If I bring this to the code again, and I scroll down, when I bring this cursor to the body, it tells me the body element. When I bring it to the header, it tells me the header element. When I bring it to the H1, it tells me the H1 what? Element. Everything here is an element. The H1 element represents a section heading. So when I say an element, I'm talking about a HTML tag. If I want to identify a HTML tag uniquely, then I would use a what? ID. If I want to identify a group of tags uniquely, then I would use a what? Class. Now in CSS, if something is a class, then it starts with the dot. In CSS, if something is an ID, it starts with the hash. So for example, if I see body, then I am talking about the tag body. If I go and see hashtag body, then I'm talking about the ID body. But if I see dot body, then I'm talking about the class body. So for example, you would see that they would write body like this with curly brackets, or body like this with curly brackets, or this with an eye. In each case, the selector is targeting, very importantly, a particular class of an element. Now, I can also have a selector that starts with a star. The moment I say star, it means I'm selecting all elements. So if I do star this, it means that all elements will have whatever rules I'll put here. For example, I can say all elements should have a color of, let's say, red. So it means everything on your page will have a color of red. There are times in which you want to be very specific. For example, in the coding which we have over here, I have a P tag. Over here, I have a P tag. If I tell my code that I want the P tag to be red, it means this P tag will be red and this P tag will be red. But that's not what I want. I want only the P tag that is in the footer to be red. So I can tell the computer to go, for example, go and look for the footer. So here I'll say, go and look for the footer. And when you find the footer, go and look for the P tag in the footer. And when you find the P tag in the footer, make the color of that P tag red. Now, when I go to my code, I'll see that the color of this is red, but I targeted the P tag. But the computer knows that I can combine them. I can use an ID, I can use a class, I can use an element to combine to find specifically what I am targeting. The whole thing we are doing with CSS is targeting elements. So I must know how I will target it. If I did it, all P tags should be red, everything here would be red. For example, if I came in over here and I didn't bring this footer here and I said P red, and I came back to my code over here, I realized all the P tags are what? Red. But that's not what I want. I only want the P tags which are by the what? Footer to be red. I could tell the computer that, okay, all the P tags that are in the class called container. And to write that, remember, if the thing is a container, it starts with a what? A dot. So dot container. And in here, I'll say all of them should have a color of, let's say, what color do I just have? Let's say blue is a bit too much. Let's say violet, like this. So it means when I go back to my code and I'm here, I'll see that all my P tags have what? Violet. We are targeting. We must know what we are targeting. We must know how we target a particular element. Are we okay?
Yes, sir.
No, not that much quite. Not quite that much. Unless maybe I decide to sit down and go through myself personally.
This means that the video I sent you didn't watch. Did you watch the video?
No, I plan to pile them up and then do it from today to Sunday. Because I was busy.
Chairman. Trust me when I tell you that if you pile it up, it will become too much. By the way, I sent it to you 2 weeks ago. So for 2 weeks, you have been very, very busy in life. Chairman.
Oh, no.
Oh, so 2 weeks. You never slept. You have been up all night. You were up all morning, all evening. You were really working. I'm sure by the end of Friday, you'll be very rich because the way you were working, I'm even afraid. Let us stop making excuses and find time for ourselves. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's come back to our lesson. So we know what a selector is, and that is the very most important thing in our HTML elements, a selector. So now that we know what a selector is, let's write some HTML and CSS code. Let's see some examples. So again, I'm deleting all the coding which I did so that I just have the basic structure of a HTML page. So I have the basic structure of the HTML. In here, I'm going to create a div. Now, a div allows you to create a transparent, translucent, invisible container on your page. So if I go on my page right now, I would not see any code over there. See, it's white. But in the code, I've put a div there. See, div. The div is transparent. It doesn't exist. But it is there. And the div works like this. You remember when you were children, and we have all been children, when we used to drink penning water, the water in which they put in the sachet and they squeeze the head and tie the bottom. Then you take it and then the head, you pull it so it looks like the devil. Then you'll be walking and happily walking around. And you make the water long or short, or you are playing with the water ahead. That's it. You realize that the transparent rubber that the water is in takes any shape that you create. That is the div. So the div, we can shape it, we can move it, we can create it, we can make it come alive to it. In here, I'm going to say my div should have a class name of container. And in here, in the head tag, I'm going to create my style tags. So style open, style close. And in here, I'm going to target the container. Now, if I write it like this, I am totally wrong because there is no HTML element called container. Remember, container, we said it is a class. Every class, if I want to create a selector from it, it starts with a what? A dot. So here I have to bring a dot. Now the computer knows that, oh, I am creating a selector for a class. So it will go and look through my code and look for the class and then go and apply what I'm about to say to the element, not the class. So the element that it will apply to is the div. And I'm going to say that, okay, my div should have a width of 500. It should have a height of 500 pixels, so px. And it should have a background color of aqua. So when I go to my screen now, I would see a square. Of course, a square is something that has the sides being the same. So I have a square here and a square here. And because I said the background color of it should be aqua, we can now see the div. If I was to remove the color for the div, so I remove the background aqua, I would see that my div is not there anymore. But the widths are there, but they are not there anymore. In my div that I have created, I am going to create another div in it. And I'm going to create another div in it and another div in it. So it means that in this big div, I have two divs there. Over here for now, I do not need this style link anymore because I've explained it to you. Now, for this div and this div and this div, I'm going to give all of them a class called box. And rather, over here, I'm going to write code for box, whereby my box, I want it to have a width of 200 pixels. I want it to have a height of 200 pixels. And I want them all to have a background color just for you people to see them, to a background color of aquamarine. And I run this code again, and I go over here, and I can see that I have a long list here. But wait. I thought we did 3 boxes. We did 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. So why do I have one long thing here? Now I have a long thing there because I haven't told the computer to space it out. I can tell it to space it out by saying, okay, have the margin be 20 pixels all around. And what that means is that over here, when I come here, I'll see I have 20 here, 20 here, 20 here, 20 down here, 20 down here, 20 on the bottom here. So now they are separated. And this is what starts to make programming enjoyable. I wrote one code. Let's go back here. I wrote just one code. But that code is applying to every single place that has the class name called box. Remember, we said a class is a group of elements that have the same characteristics. You are all top-up students. So it means if I do anything to a top-up student, I have done it to all of you. The same way, if I do any change to this, if I change the color from aquamarine to crimson red, immediately on my screen, everything here will change to crimson red. But I don't want this. I don't want all of them to have the same color. So over here, in each of the boxes, I'm going to create an ID. And I'm going to give each of the boxes an ID of box 1. This one is going to be box 2. And this one is going to be box 3. Remember, the ID is unique. Each of you have your own index numbers, which makes you unique. So my IDs cannot all be the same. When I scroll to the top, I'm going to create an ID for each. Remember, we said if something is an ID, it must start with the hash. So I'm going to say hash box 1. Curly brackets. In here, I'm going to say it should have a background color of crimson red. For my box 2, I'm going to say box 2 should have a color of aquamarine. And then for my box 3, it should have a color of aqua. Now, when I go to my screen, I'll see that each of my elements are of the same size because I said they should all be the same size. And the class is affecting it. But the IDs for each of them are different. So each of them has its own color. Cascading style sheets. The sheets are falling on top of each other. So all of them are working, but all of them have the parts in which they are working, and they are working together. Now, I can attack the container itself. Remember, the container is a class, so I can attack the container. And I can tell the computer to display, I can display in the following way. I can display flex. When I tell the computer to display it as flex, this is what happens. So flex will put everything in one line. Remember, HTML's job is to put it going down. You understand? But flex will let it be in a horizontal angle. So if I tell the computer to display it as a flex, it will display like this. Now, I can tell it to, over here, I am controlling the margins, and I don't want that. So I'm taking out the margin. So now everything will be displayed as flex, but they will be jammed up together. I don't want this. So I want to tell the computer in the container, because the container, everything is inside the container. So I'm telling the computer that everything that is in, by the way, just so that you guys can see that there is a container, I'll say width is equal to 1,000 pixels. And then the height is equal to 500 pixels. So if I save this, and just so that it can be visible for you to see, I'll say background color of this should be Azar. And when I come here and I run my code again, I can see there is some bluish here. I don't think it is something that you can see. So I can just go in here and then pick a color, a more deepened color that you can see. And then when I come back here, I'll see that that's taking effect and it is there. So the background is there. The background is working. So this and this and this are in the container. They're in it. So if I tell it to display flex, I'm telling you that the content of the container and the content of the container are the three boxes in which I created should all display flex. That means they should all be in one line. And then I'm going to tell the computer to justify the content of it. Now, I can justify the content of it in so many ways. I can use baseline, I can use center, I can use left, but I can also use space around. That means I want equal space around every single item. So if I go back over here and I click here, I'll see that each item has been placed on my screen and the space between them is equal. Now I can align the items to the center. Now remember, justify content normally deals with the element on this side of the scale, like on this side. So I'm telling you to justify content on this side. But if I want to create the vertical side, this side, okay, the vertical side, then I would use align items. And I want to align items into the center. So you can see that now all the items in which I have are properly aligned in the center. Control your code. So here I have space around. Now let me try space between. So space between, this will go to the end, there'll be space here, this will be the middle, and this will also go to the end. But I think space around is better, so that equal space around everything. So space around. If you want to learn this, the more you want to learn this, it means you have to practice, you have to try. You can see that each time in which I put an item over here, and I bring the semicolons, there are things which come up. You can try them. You can try baseline. You can come over here. What happens if I do baseline? What happens if I do this? The curiosity of the IT person must come into play. space evenly. Let's see what space evenly will do for us. If I say space evenly, the space will be even. I think this one is better. Evenly, I'll go with evenly. Now, every time when someone brings the cursor over here, I want to change the look of the cursor. So for that, I'm going to go in here and say the pointer. Should I? Or before I do that one, in here, I'm going to copy this code here. So now I have the IDs, two of them. But this ID, I'm going to add a special modifier. See, when I brought the code, it says after backdrop, before content. These are things in which I can do to enhance my work. To be honest, this before and after, they are very good for when you want to do CSS animation. You want to let things move in your screen and then they'll be animated. You want to do some kind of animation. Here is a very, very good place to do that. But for us, what we want to do now is the hover. The hover is that if I bring my cursor on top of this thing here, something should happen. For now, I'm going to go and select a very, very deep color, deeper than what is here. And I will save my work and come to my screen. And you realize that when I come back here, the elements changes color to a deeper color, so that the person knows that he has come there. He's there. I've arrived. I'm here. I'm on this one. If I'm here, I'm not on it. But when I get here, I'm on it. When I get here, nothing happens. So again, I'm going to copy the code over there for box 2. I will add a semicolon over here, and then I'll add a hover for a pseudo class. They are a class, but they are not. So they are pseudo. And in here, I'm going to say aquamarine, and I'm going to go for a deeper shade of the aquamarine, so that when I get here and I click on this one, and I get here, it gives me a deeper color. Then the person knows that, oh, I am there, I'm here, I'm there. I'm going to do the same thing to this one too. And then I'm going to say dot over here, hover. And then in here, I'm going to choose a deeper shade of it. And then I'm going to come back in here. And then again, when I come back over here and here and here, they give me different colors. We don't have to make the coding hard. We don't have to make the coding more sophisticated than it is. Today, our job was to learn what is CSS. What is it? CSS is an acronym that stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation and design of a document, written in either HTML or XML. It controls the layout, the colors, the fonts, the spacing, and the overall look of a website. CSS allows web developers to separate content from design, making websites more visibly appealing and easy to maintain. What is a selector? That was the next thing which we did today. We said a selector allows you a selector is a pattern or a rule used to select and style HTML elements. It determines which element in particular should a style sheet apply to. We learned the various types of selectors. We said there was an element selector. We said under the element selector, you can have the HTML tags. So the P tag, the A tag, any HTML tag is a target for a selector. We said you can target a class. And if you want to know that something is a class, it always starts with a dot. We said you can target an ID. We also said if you want to target everything on your page, you can target everything by typing what? The star. So if I type star, then it means I'm targeting everything. We also said that the the thing you are targeting could be a descendant selector, which means I can have Dave, and in Dave I'll have a word, P. And we also saw pseudo selectors, whereby we can have a selector, so let's say a tag, but I can have a hover so that when I put my cursor on it, then it will do something. Or there are other ones in which we'll learn later on. Next week, when we meet again, we'll put the HTML and CSS to the test. We will design a simple web page, and then we'll style the web page using HTML and CSS. Before you come next week, the 2 videos I sent you, and this video for this class, watch it. You are not children anymore. It's not my job to come and tell you, watch, go and learn. That is not why we are here. Why we are here is I come and then you say, oh, this is what you're doing. Oh, say I learned this, say I tried this, say that is what we are supposed to do here. This whole class 1 learning of I come, I teach, we close, we go, that's not the university learning. That's not why we are here. Eh? It's not why we are here. The university learning is the challenge learning. Challenge, say I did this, so say, can you do it? Say, I can't do it, teach me, then that's why we are here. The excuses of I don't have time and I have to do this and I did this and I had to go and do here and I did this one. Big men and big women. I would like to thank you all for coming to class today. I hope today I have been able to teach you what CSS is, how we can use basic CSS to change color, add color, make this and do that. Next week when we come, as I said, we'll combine the first lesson and this lesson, where we learn HTML and CSS and build an application using HTML and CSS. See how we can combine the two to achieve the aims in which we want. Are there any questions before we go?
No, sir.
If there are no questions, then thank you for coming. We'll meet again next week.
Okay. Please, I hope you will add this video too.
Abranteɛ deɛ masɛn de ama wo koraa wanhwɛ bɛba sɛ deɛ nti sɛ o fa asɛm sɔɔ abɛyi you know I tell you sef you don't watch you dey tell me say